Hey guys, Universal here, back for another video, and as you can see from the tier list, today's video we're going to be making a PvE tier list based off of my knowledge of Jujutsu Infinite. So I will, like, if you guys want me to, I can make like a domain tier list or like maybe a maximums tier list in the future, but this is just going to be going over a like ability and its ability to, do PvE successfully and how good it can be. So first off, one of the ones I just want to get out of the way, Curse Queen. This is like the best one in the game, if I'm being honest, because of two moves. Ghastly Fist, which does so much damage to any boss because it doesn't fling them upwards, and it just does like the full like 6 or 8 hits that it does, doing insane damage. And then the maximum technique, Jacob's Ladder. Jacob's Ladder has got to be quite possibly the stupidest thing I've ever seen, because of the simple fact that when you use Jacob's Ladder, the damage stacks per beam. So if there's 6 like regularly a Jacob's Ladder will do around 2500 damage, right? But if you take 5 NPCs, put them all right next to each other, it's going to do over 10,000 damage. Actually, it might even do more than that. I think one time I had only like 5 NPCs right next to each other and it did like 20,000 damage. So serious. But like, the other techniques on Rika are alright. Energy Blast would definitely be the third best technique when it comes to farming out of this entire kit. The rest of it is more PvP oriented, like being Neck Twister and Demonic Toss. But in general, like, the kit is still amazing. Conjuration is alright. It comes with cooldown reduction, speed, increase of damage, yada yada. It's alright. It's nothing too crazy. But I mean, if you want like a transformation, you have this if you want to. If you don't want to rock Sukuna's transformation. And the domain is alright. Obviously, gives you more damage and the ability to summon the katanas, giving you random moves, which in terms of a domain isn't all that compared to what some other domains sure hits are. But this Jacob's Ladder move and Ghastly Fist alone make it like the best PvE technique in the game, if I'm being honest. Next up we'll go, I'll do it by rarity. So, well, I'm not gonna do it by rarities, but I'll just go down by rarity. We'll do Hydrokinesis. Hydrokinesis is all right? Okay, Hydrokinesis isn't okay. What am I? Nice minimization. Hydrokinesis isn't complete garbage. It's not complete dog. I've used it. The thing with Hydro is it focuses more on making your opponent do less damage and making them slower, which with the builds we have currently, you don't need this because you can kill a boss in 30 seconds. So them doing damage isn't really a threat to you. Tsunami it does decent damage. The problem with Tsunami is it leaves you like too idle in place, too much in lag. You can't do another move. There are quicker moves that do the same amount of damage and more. Water Jet does a good amount of damage. This is a good like investigation / PvE move, because if you can get a bunch of curses just coming towards you and then you line them up in that, this can one tap a lot of things because of how much damage Water Jet does in general. But overall, still not the best. Piranha Swarm, some hot mid if I'm being honest, but I mean it's still not that terrible. And Eelbind is okay, but this is a PvP oriented move. Death Swarm is a pretty good move because once you use it, they automatically keep going. It does pretty decent damage, and it leaves them with a wet status effect and additional bleed damage, which is all right. Problem is it has like a 30-second cooldown, which holds it back. And then you have your domain, and if you use Death Swarm, it will affect everyone trapped inside the domain. All attacks apply, yada yada. And sure, this domain is pretty good, but at the end of the day, this isn't really PvP or like PvE oriented. It's just not really that PvE oriented. It's way more PvP oriented. But it's still not terrible. There are terrible techniques in this game. That's not one of them. Next up, we'll go with another rare. We have Blood Manip. I'd say this is mid. Okay, Blood Manip in itself isn't terrible, considering it not only comes with a transformation, but you can also chant this move down here. Not Piercing Blood, Supernova does decent damage, right? It's just Piercing Blood, like you have to land blood moves to mark your opponent, and out of all these blood moves, like when like doing PvE, you don't need Blood Disc, you don't need Blood Blind. Piercing Blood is like the best one, and if you're not using like a bunch of blood moves to constantly have them marked, Supernova is also not worth using, which is the problem. So overall, it's just it's just not that crazy. Also, flowing red scale says it only buffs physical damage. It buffs all your damage. It's a really good transformation, but it's still worse than the Sukuna transformation at the end of the day. And piercing blood is a really small AoE, you know, making that a lot more like, you know, mid and niche. And like, think about farming PvE, not bosses, but like a big group of mobs. Like, you'd have to mark all of them to get any potential out of supernova, and this is a really stun heavy move right here. Bloodbind, and then like blood disc is a combo extender. So at the end of the day, blood's just, it's not that good. I give it mid only because it has a transformation. If I'm being honest, the transformation is pretty decent if you don't have access to one, but other than that, it's really mid. All right, we'll go down another one. We're going on a Boogie Woogie. Gang, it's Boogie Woogie. What did you expect? I won't put it in terrible because there's actual terrible techniques, right? And Boogie Woogie's not one of them, but it's just it's a PvP oriented technique, bro. Like what do you expect, bro? Like be for real, bro. It's a PvP oriented technique. You would expect that. It's not good for farming. In this, actually, Loki is going in terrible, bro. This thing is not good for farming in the slightest, bro. It's going in terrible. It's just not good for farming at the end of the day. And then we'll go down to the commons. We got cloning. Cloning is also terrible. Like, okay, the clones, they look cool, but I mean, oh well, that's arguable too, I ain't gonna lie. But they, like, their damage output isn't all that. They spawn in at half your level. They're not that tanky. The clone toss is a combo extender, which isn't really useful for PvE against bosses or a large group of mobs. And then you have clone swap, which is barely doing anything for you, like literally doing nothing for you in PvE. So clone's just not good. It's just not good. Next up, let me do one that a lot of people are just like, it took my video for a lot of people to realize how, you know, great this technique is. Ratio is one of the best, and I do mean best, farming techniques in this game for boss farming, because of this simple move right here. Freaking not 7-3 strikes. Actually, it is 7-3 strikes. I'm trolling. 7-3 strikes, lowering defense by 50%. Only for ratio moves, by the way. Only for ratio moves. That's like it. Actually, it says only for ratio moves, but I'm pretty sure it lowers their defense for everything. I'm not gonna lie, because the damage I'll be doing after that move is like low-key, like bonkers. But even like disregarding that little tidbit, these moves right here still do great damage. Like unwavering output hits like a truck. And then you also have a little transformation, which you don't really need. You really just need the first 3 moves. But for boss farming, 7-3 strikes into the other 2 moves is lethal. It is lethal. It is in a lot of people's builds right now. It's easily accessible. It's just a great move overall, like a great technique, and really good for PvE. Bosses, not investigation. Bosses. Next up, let me run Cryo. Cryo is... it's really mid, but I could squeeze it into good just because of like 2 moves it has. Cryo is good mostly because, okay, you have your movement skill, which is that little, where is it? Do they not have the movement skill on the Trello? Oh, wow, that's crazy. Well, it's the one that they're using in this picture right here. There's a movement skill, and it allows you to move pretty fast if you want to travel, which is really convenient. But Hailstorm right here is a skill that like really carries. The skill can do a lot, like 1,000 damage, and it has like a 5 or 6 second cooldown, which is honestly insane to me in my personal opinion. And against mobs with bigger hitboxes, you can get every single hit, which makes it do that 1,000 damage, making it a pretty good technique. But overall, other than that, it's nothing too crazy. Ice Age is decent, but it knocks back too far and can mess up your PvE farming, which is why I don't really like it all that much. But actually, for one good move, yeah, that's going in mid. I ain't gonna lie. For one good move, that's definitely going in mid. But overall, I mean, it's still not bad. It's definitely usable if you want to use that first skill, but you wouldn't use anything else in the kit. So I mean, you know, pick your battles. Next up, we got Sukuna. I'd put this in amazing. Actually, ooh, do I want to put it at that? Actually, I would. Okay, right. I'm gonna leave this as the best, literally just for Yuta's technique. But if I was putting more things up there, Sukuna's Vessel would go up there too, because Sukuna's Vessel is stacked, right? Sukuna's Vessel, it comes with this like transformation. Like Sukuna's Switch is disgusting. 25% increased damage and defense for a whole minute. That is disgusting. literally disgusting. Cleave also does pretty good damage, and Dismantle's a pretty good move overall. All these moves can be used relatively well for farming. Flame Arrow even does good damage itself, even though you won't use it in most farming builds. Malevolent Shrine is alright, yada yada. And it's the max technique it's pretty good. Roll Cutting Slash is but I mean, overall it's good. It's just there are better options in terms of other things in that category. The thing with Sukuna that carries it the most is literally the transformation. The transformation is literally one of the best ones in the game by far. It might be arguably the best transformation in the game. Next up, Cursed Speech. This thing is bad. All right, it's not completely terrible, horrid garbage, right? Because I've used it, but it's still just not good. The problem with Cursed Speech, right? You have Twist. No damage. You have Don't Move. No damage. Like, I do damage, but I'm saying like this, like it's barely anything. You have Blast Away. Blast Away does decent damage. The problem is the name, Blast Away. All of the mobs will get knocked back, ruining your farm. And then there's Explode, which is decent, but it's still mid. You have Crush, which is mid, but it does okay damage, but the problem is it has like a 30-second cooldown. And then there's Megaphone, which increases your AoE, which is literally just a waste of a movement slot if I'm being so serious. And overall, like, it doesn't have the damage output to like be considered a good PvE technique. It just really doesn't. It's all right. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's really just not good if I'm being honest. Next up, Tool Manipulation. Do I don't even think, like, do I really need to check the Trello to explain this one to you guys? Like, okay, so I accidentally closed the Trello. Nice. And it's not pulling back up. All right, here we go. Where is it? Tool Manip. The one thing I do like about Tool Manip is the broom. The broom is gas. If you have item notifier and you've used the broom to get over to something quicker, the broom is gas. But other than the broom, this thing is some hot garbo. I mean, like there's no sugarcoating it. Even with these other moves, it's still some hot garbo. Like there is no redeeming this technique. It's some hot mid. Like I don't even want to defend it. We're gonna move on. I don't want to defend it. Next up we got Soul Manip. This thing is it's mid. But I can low-key put it in good. It's not terrible, right? The moves can do pretty decent damage. The problem is it's not really it's not really that good. It's arguably the worst special grade like technique in general in the game. But Deformed Fist does pretty good damage. This is mid damage. This does mid damage because it's a grab. You have Flesh Drill, which is PvP oriented. You have an Evasive, which is nice. You have your Soul Isomer, which is And then you have a Transformation. Now, this is what I like. Increased damage and speed for 20. Like, the transformation is good. That is the only reason this is getting a good category. If it didn't have a decent transformation, it'd be put in mid. Because the only decent move you have for farming in this kit is Deformed Fist. But Deformed Fist is a pretty good move, if I'm being honest. The domain is alright, but at the end of the day, it's self-embodiment of perfection. It's PvP oriented. You don't have the time to go mark every individual mob that you're fighting and nuke them. So it is what it is. It's alright. I can like Soul Transfigure, Idle Transfiguration. It's not a terrible technique, but it's just so PvP heavy. It's so PvP heavy. Next up, Star Rage. Star Rage is my GOAT. This is obviously going in amazing. Star Rage is half the moveset is kind of PvP oriented. That's most movesets in this game because they want to be able to, you know, have it to where you can stand alone if you don't have game passes and stuff. But Jupiter is a goated move. And where's the other one? Okay, Asteroid's pretty decent. But the other move that you want to always be rocking is Terra. Terra and Jupiter will carry this fruit. Fruit is crazy. This technique alone, like it's broken. And then the domain, which gives you max mass the entire time you're inside of the domain, making your moves give you iframes and hit like a truck. And It also decreases your opponent's defense by 10%, which is like, it's literally just, it's just stupid. It's just so broken. That's with the extra attack and stuff that you're already getting. And then the maximum technique is actually pretty good. It does pretty good damage. You can avoid it if you're smart with how you use it. And it's pretty decent. I won't say it's the craziest thing in the world. It's not no Jacob's ladder, but it's still not terrible. It's usable. Unlike, you know, like some maximum techniques that get absolutely fried the second you use them. Cough, cough, maximum meteor. But that's PvP, not PvE. Let me see. Straw doll. Actually, it's been a while since I used straw doll. Let me go read up on that kit real quick. Yeah, this is very single. Yeah, this PvP oriented. Very, very PvP oriented technique. I'm gonna put it in bad because I think one of these moves does decent damage. Do they not? That's a combo extender. Mallet smash is hairpin. Let's just go ahead and put this thing down here in terrible. We got like no AoE moves. You some mid. I ain't gonna lie, gang. You don't even have anything that like lowers defense. That's just sad. Nothing that even like lowers defense when you have like soul resonance on them or anything. Yeah, GG. Yeah, GG. It's just, yeah, that's not a PvE technique. It's not. Promise you it's not. Judgment's bad. I won't say it's like terrible, but it's bad. I used it recently. Judgment has like one good move for PvE. Gavel smash. That's it. Gavel smash is the only decent one for PvE. Confiscation's a PvP based move. Gavel sweep, PvP based move. Objection, PvP based move. Deadly sentencing. I love this domain, right? I love how it works. I love the rock paper scissors that you play, and I love the effects of the domain. But at the end of the day, this is a PvP oriented technique. Like hella. The only decent move for PvP is or PvE is gavel smash, and even then it's whatever. It's literally, you can replace that with like anything, and you don't need that, so it'll go in bad. And at least it has one decent move, unlike these ones down here in terrible. Next up we have construction. I actually haven't touched construction in a while. I don't think it'll be good, but let me go ahead and check it on here real quick. Summons a mid and mid. Huh. Low-key, that minigun might be T, but it's just, for the duration that it would probably take to do good damage, I could get the same thing out of pressing reversal red, and it's just like, it takes 1 second. So this is definitely a terrible technique. I'm not gonna lie. It might, like, okay, just for a benefit of the doubt, you might be able to squeeze it in bad depending on how much damage that minigun actually does, but I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it in terrible just because. Next up we have Blazing Courage. Blazing Courage is, it's bad, but it's not terrible. It's bad, but it's not terrible. It actually does like some damage, unlike the other techniques there, and it has a little bit of AoE, which, you know, helps it a little bit, but overall it's still pretty bunions. I'm not gonna lie, it's still pretty bunions. The only thing that like brings it back a little bit is all attacks apply burn damage, and burn damage in this game is pretty good. And this has some pretty good, like, if you line up your opponents, it has some decent, you know, damage potential, but it's still pretty bad at the end of the day. It's better than these for sure, though. It's better than these for sure. Next up we have Volcano. Very good technique. Very good technique. Volcano's moves hit like trucks. They all do good damage. The maximum technique does good damage, even though it's not Jacob's ladder, so who cares. Molten Palm, great damage. Ember Insects, it's alright damage. It's more of a PvP oriented technique. Eruption, alright damage. It ain't the best, but it ain't nothing. It ain't terrible. Molten Chamber does actually pretty good damage. The problem is your opponent needs to basically stand in it, which isn't a problem when you're fighting bosses or a group of mobs. So, you know, it's not a terrible move in the slightest. Fissure does completely mid damage. I tried to test it. I tried to max out the damage on this thing. It only hits like once or twice, and it does mid damage. And then you have your Domain, which, it's not terrible, but, you know, it's just still not good. That's like, it's just still not good. Now, Max Meteor, on the other hand, is pretty good. Max Meteor, on the other hand, is pretty good. But it's still just a very good technique. Nothing too crazy. Honestly, if I'm being honest, Sukuna's coming down here to very good, because the only thing putting Sukuna up there is the transformation. and the transformation's good, but the rest of the kit really isn't all that. It's not terrible, but you know, it's not all that. Gambler Fever, amazing. Hakari's technique, beautiful. Mwah, chef's kiss. Like, I'll fully glaze this technique. You have a domain that you can use anytime that doesn't require a domain bar. You just have to fill up your fever meter inside, which you don't even really need to do when you're farming bosses, because you're literally just expanding the domain so the boss doesn't expand theirs. You're not caring about closed curtains, pachinko rush, or any of that. Cargo haul hits like a truck. Rendezvous hits like a truck. And we don't care about slot slam because that's more of a, you know, PvP oriented technique. And then you have your domain, which, oh, it's so beautiful that you can use this thing without any domain meter. I'm trying to tell you, it's so beautiful. And overall, just a pretty good technique, really great for farming, especially for bosses because of the no domain meter domain. And yeah, overall pretty good. And then lastly, we have Gojo Infinity. Obviously, this is an amazing technique. It comes with Hollow Purple, one of the strongest hitting basic attacks in the game. Great for starting out boss fights. You have Reversal Red, literally an amazing PvE technique, whether that be boss fights or investigation. You have your maximum technique, making your moves really great for investigation, because then you can use your Hollow Nuke, which is great for wiping out a field of mobs. You have your iframes with Mugen if you really want to use this in a boss fight. You don't really need this, if I'm being honest. Red Transmission, you don't need this. This is more, you know, PvE oriented. And then you have your domain expansion, Unlimited Void. This is great for boss fights because if the boss can't fight back, you just do a nasty little one combo to them and they're cooked. Obviously, you don't need this though, because with some domains, as long as you know the boss's pattern, they won't really be able to fight back and you can cook them. But if there's a boss that's annoying to you and you want to just stun them, Unlimited Void's your go-to. I'm not gonna lie, it's a great technique. Obviously there's your maximum with a Hollow Nuke, and Hollow Nuke is just great for wiping out like a field of mobs and like an investigation. Anyways, this is my tier list. Curse Queen, the best. If you want like a quick summary of why, it's called Jacob's Ladder, Ghastly Fist. Two best PvE moves in this game. Best PvE moves in this game. Infinity is great because of its Hollow Purple, its red, and its domain. Hakari's goated because of its domain. Cargo Hall, Rendezvous. Star Rage is goated because of Jupiter, Terra, its domain, and slightly because of its maximum technique. Ratio's goated because it has like 7-3 thirds technique or whatever it's called that lowers defense and then lets you hit like a truck. Ratio is disgusting for boss farming and it's amazing. Oh, let me like clarify what all these are good for. Curse Queen, good for both. Infinity, good for both. Hakari, better for boss farming, but can kind of be used inside of investigations. Star Rage, good for both. Sukuna's Vessel, good for both. It's good because of its cleave, doing good damage, because of its transformation, and yeah, that's really pretty much it, but it's good for both. Volcano, it's good for both. It can do pretty good damage in either or. There are better options in terms of boss farming, but Volcano does do still pretty good damage, especially with maximum meteor inside of investigations. It'll wipe out an entire field with its huge AoE, but overall, still not Jacob's Ladder, so it's whatever. Hydrokinesis, it's a pretty decent technique. It's not bad, it's not the best, but it still has pretty good damage. It's better for its water jet inside of investigations and things like that. You don't really need this inside of a boss farm. It's way better inside of investigation because of the AoE that it has, and you can wipe out a group of mobs, but it's still not terrible. Soul Manipulation, this is, I guess this will be better in investigation because you're not running a full soul manipulation moveset when you boss farm. So you really just be using Deformed Fist and maybe the transformation if you don't have Sukuna Vessel, which is what, you know, makes it somewhat decent. But at the end of the day, it's still just not all that. Honestly, I can low-key move it down here to mid, but I mean, that's y'all's discretion on whether you want this in good or mid. Soul Manipulation is just lacking in the PvE aspect. Cryokinesis, it's good because of the first skill and its movement and Ice Age technically, but Ice Age is still kind of mid. This is more of a investigation type of technique. It's all right, but still not the best. Blood Manip, this is more of a boss farming technique. It's not that good though, I'm gonna be honest. I'm moving it down. The transformation is all right, but at the end of the day, it's still just not all that. Cursed Speech, the AoE of knocking people back and the damage is too mediocre for this to be any good. But I mean, it has a few moves that you can use. Judgment, you can use Gavel Smash. That is it. That is it. Blazing Courage. It's low-key terrible, but because the moves do a little bit of damage, I gave it bad. But it's low-key terrible, I ain't gonna lie. You can move this down to terrible if you wanted to. And then I'm not even gonna go over the terrible techniques because you can tell why they're in terrible. They're just not good for farming. But anyways, guys, that's it for my PvE tier list. I hope you guys like my explanations on each technique and why I ranked it the way I did. And anyways, you can give me your opinions down in the comments. And anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.